Hang on one second. I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen. So, Miss Bailey, Dr. Cable, Miss Coleman,
Present.
Dr. Davis, Dr. Henderson,
Here.
Miss Lawson,
Here.
Miss Talbert, Miss Merricks,
Here.
Mr. Powell, and Mr. Taylor Jarrell II. You have 5, which does not constitute a quorum, but in conjunction with the agenda, we can go into an executive committee.
Okay, so
Robin, do I need to, I'm sorry, Robin,
No,
do I
go
need to
ahead.
clarify anything on that?
No, you don't.
Okay, so we will go into an executive committee. Thank you very much. And now we have, you can see there the certification of the virtual meeting. So y'all look good. And then we go to introductions and announcements. Anyone have those?
Yes, we want to congratulate Ms. Paul for being selected as member at large, actually elected for the National Association of State Student Grant and Aid Programs. So Deborah, would you like to say a little bit about that?
Good morning. Thank you, Dr. Boutte. NASGAP is the National Association that really focuses on what state scholarship grant and aid programs are doing. So in my role, I'll be working with the executive committee on a number of initiatives related to state scholarship and grant programs. One of the things that we've added is called the Power Hour. So once a month, states will get together and discuss things that are going on. It's really a good networking group to find out. We get firsthand information from some of the people in the area in DC who know what's going on policy-wise. So we get a firsthand look at new things that are coming down from Congress, what bills are being proposed. So it helps us on the state level to plan programs a little bit better. For instance, with the Computers Fund that we're implementing and the MJ Foster Work Group, there are 2 national programs that are currently being debated in the House and Congress right now. So that will give us some insight on how we can maybe modify our programs to be able to meet the demands when the federal guidelines come down. So I'm excited to work with the executive committee. I know previous Melanie Amrine was really big in NASGAP. And so I knew a lot about it from there. And then Dr. Boutte has allowed me to go to the conference the last time it was held in person. So working with them is going to be just another rewarding experience for me. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Any other announcements?
I'd just
If
like the
not-
record to reflect that Mr. Taylor Jarrell II has joined.
Good morning. Thank you for joining.
Good morning. How you doing?
We're doing well. Next, we need approval of the minutes of August 19th, 2021. I hope you all had an opportunity to review them. And if that's the case, then I will need a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
This is Christy. I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Christy. A second, please.
This is Amy, second.
Thank you, Amy. It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, moving right along. Good job. All right, next we have public comment.
Andrew, did we receive?
We don't have it.
No
Thank you.
one? I guess we should advertise more than people would come and comment, huh? Okay, next, thank you. Program updates, and the first one is Ms. Underwood.
I think you're still on mute.
I'm sorry. How y'all doing?
Good morning.
Good morning.
with Able, we've been working with the entities to be able to open accounts for their residents, for the group homes and so forth. We've been extremely busy with that. They certainly had an appetite for it. So back in May, when the new rules were passed, they've been excited about that. We have been opening up quite a few entity accounts for those folks. START has been very busy with the college disbursements as well as K-12. We've entered a time now where we're basically, instead of sending funds to the schools, we're basically reimbursing the parents at this juncture, but we've been extremely busy with that. We're also working with the final 5 shot at $1 million winners to get their START accounts open so their scholarship funds can be deposited. So we've been working with them along, and we're finishing up that right now. So as you can see by the numbers, the market is good, and we're very busy based on those numbers. That's what I have today.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions or comments for Ms. Underwood?
I have just one question. If someone has a K-12 account, could they roll that money into being for their children when they go to college? I had that question asked of me.
Yes, once the child graduates, they can move those funds into a START account for their college expenses.
Thank you.
Mhm. Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Ms. Underwood. Okay, public information and communications update. Dr. Francis?
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Okay, so our LOSFA mentions is about the Completers Grant Program. Deborah Paul, our Director of Scholarships and Grants, she recently discussed a new program with Louisiana Radio Network, Beauregard Daily News, and Fox 8 News New Orleans. And Ms. Paul did an amazing job with her interviews. And we also wanted to highlight President Rick Gallo at Grambling State University, along with Brittany Williams, Senior Policy Analyst for the Education Trust at the National Office. Both shared our Completers Grant press release through social media. So we were excited to see them expanding our reach through that platform. And we'll continue to promote the great program. So Lex and virtual assistants. So as you all know, we started our artificial intelligence chatbot on our website. And if you haven't looked at it, I encourage you to go check it out. She's super pretty. But Lex stands for LOSFA's expert, and she allows students to receive general information about their college needs. We say 24/7 because they can use it from their phone and just send her a chat. And so far, well, in July, Lex answered 515 questions, and last month she's answered 406 questions. But currently, she provides answers to general questions related to TOPS, and then we plan to phase in her ability to answer additional questions beyond TOPS. But currently, if a student has a complex question about their TOPS award, Lex will just direct them to contact our public information and communication staff directly, or have them log into their Student Hub account. And then over to the right, I wanted to highlight that since the office transitioned to working remotely during COVID in March of last year, our public information and communication staff have collectively conducted 1,689 virtual office hour sessions via Zoom. And then in coordination with our field outreach services staff, along with our PIC staff, we've conducted a total of 589 virtual events. So kudos to everybody in outreach and in communications for continuing this work while working remotely. And then last, we had 2 recent presentations. Darren Smith, Jr., our media specialist, presented to the new and returning Louisiana Gear Up staff on the resources that we disseminate to students across the state. And it was really cute. He used his Bitmoji as a theme for his slides. And then along with Darren, Ebony Holmes, our program administrator in our Public Information and Communications Division, represented LOSFA at the first LACRO Articulation Workshop hosted by LSUE. And so 6 workshops were held each year across the state to provide important information to high school counselors regarding TOPS, FAFSA, the ACT, and updates from their LACRO zone coordinators. And then the Zone 2 articulation workshop hosted by LSUE had 103 counselors in attendance. So Ebony always does an amazing job of providing the TOPS and FAFSA resources to counselors. So that's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to
Questions?
say, I want to say that y'all's social media on Lex looks great. I've seen it in a lot of different places. The graphics are very clear, and also I was able to log in a little bit to the counselor webinars the other day, and y'all did a phenomenal job of breaking down everything in a way that the counselors could understand. And I'm looking forward to be able to go back and listen to it because I was interrupted some of that time. But y'all have done a really good job this year.
Thank you, Christy. We appreciate that.
Other comments, questions? For Dr. Francis? Okay, thank you very much. And Christy, I think your comments are really the kinds of feedback that are so important for the staff, because you're there with the proverbial boots on the ground, and you know what's working and what's received well. So thank you for speaking up and sharing that with us. Student engagement update.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning. Since our May launch of LOSFA's newest initiative, Student Engagement Division, we are now at the cusp of launching our fall 2021 Student Engagement Networks, Student Network Group meetings. With August, we have held all three groups. With our engineering meeting, you can see that our facilitator, Dr. Bruce Craig, invited the Peterbilt to come and share internship opportunities with our students. The next slide, please. At the accounting group, we had the opportunity to have our Division of Administration's Assistant Commissioner, Dr. Desiree Honore Thomas, present, and she shared about the awesome opportunities awaiting certified public accountants with regards to how students are board that. So you saw the representation of students there from the various universities throughout our state of Louisiana. Dr. Henderson looked like we had almost UL system there for that particular presentation. Next slide, please, Rhonda. For our nursing group, we had representatives from the Louisiana Healthcare came and presented. This is a collaborative that we are continuing to build and establish. And we're so excited that LHC Group continues to show their commitment and dedication toward providing onboarding, job opportunities, internships to our nursing majors. In this nursing network group, the third of our three groups that we launched in August, you see the total attendance here was 22. And we also were privileged to have State Representative Dustin Miller present, who happens to also be a nurse practitioner and owns his own practice throughout St. Landry Parish. So he came as well and shared his pathway towards the nursing profession that he's chosen, and again, duly serve as our state representative. Our students in our nursing group continues to excel. Many of them, again, actively working as they are also pursuing their nursing degrees there. So LHC Group, they themselves have asked to remain actively involved as we continue to meet on a monthly basis. They want to avail staff schedule permitting. Next slide, please. With the launch of our fall student network groups, we received a special invitation from the Northwestern State University's accounting department to host a series of orientations tailored just for their students. Because of this conversation with them, they're asking, and we have considered and are doing so, that we expand our accounting network to not only include accounting majors, but those majors that are students that are also majoring in finance. So thus, you may see the embellishment or the expansion of that title. That network group is now accounting/finance. Our first orientation with Northwestern students happens to be tonight. Around 6 o'clock, and that's going to launch our 3-part series with them. Looking forward to grow our accounting/finance network group with the add-ons of these students from the Northwestern State University. I think we have one more slide. Rhonda, please. As we are preparing for the launch of MJ Foster Promise Program, you see noted that in the ACT itself, charges LOSFA with coordinating a work group, of which we have since identified an existing group, the Governor's Education Workforce Subcabinet, through which, in addition to availing the scholarship opportunities, this opportunity will be, we will be providing wraparound services, that braided funded strategies on how these adult learners can access various supports to coincide with their financial support. So what you see here is a one-pager that we will be introducing at the October 12th Governor's Subcabinet meeting. We will give a tutorial to those 8 or so state agencies that have been identified to list federal and state aid that is available. Of course, this information will be housed on LOSFA's website, kind of similar in the fashion that we currently have the community resource database, but again, as identified on this flyer, this one pager, this database will be targeting specifically our adult learners. So we're very much excited about this opportunity and looking forward to assist in just making sure that students have the services and support they're needing to succeed. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Questions or comments? I have a question up, and maybe refresh my memory. What are the conversations like in these engagement groups when they talk to each other? Are there specific topics that come up that are the same regardless of what the group is
Great.
about? Or
yes. What we've been focusing on this semester, Ms. Coleman, is connecting our students with professionals, with employers. And so as we do hear from the students with their individual needs, their challenges, we want to make sure that they recognize, that the one-ups waiting for them upon the degree completion process. But as we hear them, a lot of them are still adjusting with the pandemic, having to adjust with all of the new requirements, regulations as the surrounding, vaccination. But our students share with each other, encourage each other. And of course, as they succeed, as they reach those milestones in their studies, they share them with one another. You will hear me report more in depth in the September meeting, in the October meeting about our September focus. Just this week, we had a phenomenal session where we had a Dr. McGuire present on metacognitions, study strategies, learning strategies. And it was just so amazing. We held this with all 3 of our network groups combined. And the students were so involved with the tips, the learning foci that Dr. McGuire shared. And it's just so exciting to see students embrace the information, but also as they seek to make use of what knowledge and information and resources we are giving them. I hope that answered your question.
how do the students learn about these opportunities to be in these engagement groups?
Thank you. We are currently massively underway promoting it with PICCOMs, Dr. Francis and her team. They are assisting us, making sure that we have necessary calendars, flyers that we distribute electronically. I myself, we're doing presentations to various groups that invites us. For example, you're going to hear more about this next month as well, but I'll give you a little bit because we have one more session to do. We have a local hospital that orientates nursing students, for example. And so during that orientation session, they'll invite us in rather than just giving a blurb over the internet or what have you. We are engaged by connecting with these students, advertising, promoting the event, sharing with them how to register for it. And I must say, as you saw on last month's update, we have that QR code that's being flopped up there, and we are getting Ignite notifications of folk as they are opening up the material. So this is something that's ongoing and we'll continue to promote, and we're seeking opportunities. So we would welcome any of you board members, as you have outlets, please let us know so that we can coordinate that and make it happen within your sphere of influence.
That's great. Thank you very much. Other questions or comments? Appreciate it. Thank you. Dr. Cobb, field outreach services update, please.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, so as you may recall, last time we met, I was really rushing trying to get to another meeting. And this slide is really about that meeting that I was trying to get. They were texting me and telling me I was up, so we were actually hosting our professional development. Dr. Francis talked a little bit about that earlier because Darren, our media specialist, did an excellent job with his presentation, but several team members actually presented at this professional development. And the first day was orientation. So these were for some of our new staff members at our schools who work in various roles. There'll either be a site coordinator, parent liaison, or a club sponsor, because our Gear Up program has a Gear Up club, or it's called Explorers Club. So we definitely every year, well, really twice a year and throughout the year, try to set our schools up for success by giving them professional development on how to implement college and career readiness activities, how to engage our students, and how to make sure that they know how to reach us and get their questions answered. So with that being said, the first day, we had about 69 participants who were a part of orientation. And the second day, we had about 152. And these could be anywhere from school administrators, district staff, to teachers in schools. As you see in the middle, these were the actual topics that were discussed these days. And at the bottom, I think the most important part of our presentations or our schools who actually presented with us. Yes, we enjoy doing presentations. We enjoy making sure that we can share from, the state level or from the programmatic level what resources are available for the schools. But our schools are so important. Our districts are so important with sharing how to get it done in the setting where they are. So Carroll High School did an excellent job. You see that C and the bulldog on the screen. St. Helena, they did an excellent job, and Park Forest Middle did an outstanding job actually sharing, okay, so how do I implement these programs within the confines of whatever's going on with COVID, whatever's being required of me at the school level, the district level, the state level, as a school. How do I get this done? So hearing from their peers in terms of how they've been able to get it done was instrumental. And also Sabine. So Shelley Rivers of Sabine Parish does an outstanding job implementing programming. So she actually explained things from the district level in terms of how to implement programming and some best practices and some things that works for her at the district level. So very proud of our schools and district who actually helped us with this PD last month. Next slide, Rhonda. Okay, so we wanted to talk a little bit about how we have kicked off the year. We're still early into the year. It's September, and as you know, so much has happened with just existence in Louisiana, right? Yeah. So the staff have been really working closely with the schools. You know, we never stop. So we're working during the summer. And to kick off the school year, this is a highlight of some of the events that have been going on with the schools that we have contracted with. First is Carroll High School. You know, I really want to send a shout out to Carroll High School, even more so their principal was so instrumental in making sure that these events actually happen. Their principal, his name is Dr. Eric Davis. He worked very hard to make sure that their students were engaged, and he did all these weeks of about career and weeks engaging the students in college and career readiness. And the ULM week was one week that he had, and Louisiana Delta was another week that he had. And the neat part of this is their entrepreneurial class actually created these t-shirts that you see on the bottom of the screen. So really proud of the leadership, proud of the school actually engaging their students early on in terms of getting the students involved. And the picture in the middle is Summer Clark. She is our regional coordinator in the North. So she's domiciled in Monroe City. She actually has an office in Carroll Junior High School. So she is instrumental in making sure the students in the northern part of the state actually get the support that they need. So that's her picture there in that photo there. Now on the right side of the screen, Glen Oaks Magnet Middle and High School. This is an orientation event that Darius Furlock and Ebony Mitchell actually conducted there. So these are some of the students who actually participate. This is a student and parent event orientation that actually happened. And so they were there introducing them to the resources that we have, getting them all ready for the things that will be taking place at their school through our office, and answering their questions. And who does not like t-shirts, right? So giving them those t-shirts to get them motivated and ready to unlock their future. These graphics were definitely created by our communications team and posted on our website. So and this is some of their feedback in terms of what they want to do as they actually move into their careers once they finish their education. Next slide. And the last orientation kickoff was is for Converse High School. So each one of our Gear Up schools, we are required to do a 21st century ceremony for any new student or student who maybe transitioned in from another school. The sixth graders in all of our Sabine schools every year are new students to the Gear Up program. So one of the things we're required to do is give them a certificate telling them, hey, welcome. You need to work hard. You need to make sure you pay attention. You need to optimize these activities that we're bringing to your school. And in turn, on the flip side of that certificate that you can see in the picture down here with the students, it tells them the state aid that they could qualify for, tells them about TOPS, it tells them about Pell, it tells them about various programs that are available to them. And so this is a highlight of that being done at Converse High School. These three students down there are our middle school students who actually took a picture with their actual certificates, at the event that actually happened there. And finally, we're really excited about this resource. This resource is called Claim Your Future. So it's another resource to add to our all of the resources that we have, like the Unlock My Future. Claim Your Future is an extension of that. We work very hard or very closely with the developers, Britt Kelly from our office did, to make sure that we actually capture the high demand jobs in Louisiana and actually create these game resources and also update our site. So Louisiana has a site for this particular tool, and it's live now. So this is something else that we'll actually be providing to our schools this year. So we have the game pieces in here, and the site is actually live. So you might say, okay, so what is this? How are we using this? So it's a game that basically encourages our students to continue their education. It gives them real life decisions to be made. And the difference between this and my life, my way is this is a game, and it comes in two forms. It's not only the online resource, but it's also the game pieces. The beautiful thing about the game pieces is they are set up, whereas they're made in a material where you can clean them off, because everything now with being careful with sharing things, so you can clean those off. But these game pieces, like the one you see on the screen, they have the job, what the annual income is, and it takes in consideration, like you see, monthly income after taxes and insurance. So, hey, getting them to think about, hey, you don't just make, whatever, this job is advertised at. You still have to pay taxes. If you sign up for insurance, which sometimes is required, you still have to pay your student loan back if you got it, even though, we want them to finish without any loan debt. But we do want to keep it real in terms of if this is what they're doing. And education level years in college. So this is a comprehensive way to look at how they can claim their future. Again, this is a resource that we are shipping the game pieces out as we speak to our schools that we're contracted with. And also the actual Louisiana version of the game is live. So they can go on, you can go on, the link is hot in the actual presentation, whereas you can either be assigned a career or you can claim the career that you want and then go through the game and see how well you do in terms of still having money once those expenses come your way. So that's what I have.
That's a lot. Thank you. Questions or comments? I would just like to say I always appreciate the enthusiasm that you bring to this. I don't know how it's just so, it's quite an optimistic, it's challenging, but your optimism is that you're going to get this done and get it to the students is just quite gratifying. And I personally thank you for that.
Thank you. I believe that it's just an honor and just a privilege to be able to do this work. I really feel strongly about the work that we're doing. And I serve with an amazing team, with amazing group of people, that here at our office. And I just as you can see, just really glad to just be a part of it. Thank you so much.
And that comes through in all your presentations. Thank you. Next, we have scholarship and grants update. Ms. Paul.
Good morning, everyone. The first slide is on the Bessie tuition billing program for teachers. For the fall 2021 semester, we've already processed 3 recipients. Normally, we have about 8 that are awarded this funding for STEM education in the for the teachers, whether they're elementary or secondary level. On the GO grant, we have this big allocation of $40 million, but the billings can't begin until after the school's 14th class day. So we expect to get some billings from the North Louisiana schools who were not impacted by Hurricane Ida. Most of our schools in South Louisiana have moved their 14th class day to the end of this week and some into next week. And then just this morning, I was discussing with the administrator with Joanna that some schools may have an even further date because a lot of state offices, I think in 25 parishes were closed on yesterday. So that may move some schools back another day, trying to get these hurricanes out the way and get the GO grant process. So for the next meeting, we should have a lot of billings that have gone through because we try to at least use half of the allocation in the fall semester. So we're working with the schools to make sure that they can bill promptly as soon as their 14th class day has elapsed to start using this additional funding for GO grant. Next slide. John R. Justice. This is where we pay attorneys who work as either prosecutors or public defenders pay back their student loans. So we have 10 awards for prosecutors and 5 for public defenders. So we've made 4 of those awards for public defenders, and we've made 1 for prosecutors. Now, what we're
I think Deborah may have accidentally hit the end button on her computer. There she is. Deborah, you back? Deborah, you back?
Yes, I'm back. I'm sorry, I was talking to myself on mute. On the, I'm sorry about that. On the public defender side, we had 6 applications for 5 awards. We've made 4 of those awards. We're waiting on documentation from one more attorney to complete her file, and we can award that $3,900 funding. On the prosecutor side, we had 15 awards for 15 applications for 10 awards. We've made 8. We have 2 remaining awards on the prosecutor side. And those awards are $1,950. On the Go You Challenge, again, we're waiting on the 14th class day. So what you're looking at are the results from last academic year, 2020-2021. We had 34 recipients for Go You Challenge at 11 different schools and 21 recipients for the spring semester. And so we'll be processing those as they come in from the schools. Any questions?
Any questions or comments before we move on? Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Tops update, Brett?
Yeah, I was really hoping there would be more to share this month. The 14th class date for most universities would have come and gone by now if it weren't for Ida, and we'd have a little bit more information to share. The vast majority of the $1.8 million in invoices that we have received is for prior year billings. So I have very little current year data to share. And to add to the lack of data, 3 of our schools that are always early to send their initial fall invoices, UNO, Nichols, and Tulane, were obviously significantly affected by Ida. And they were almost all of that $16 million in invoices that we had received at this point last year. And just for context, that some of you guys are new, the fall billings are our best indication of where we're going to end the year. And we also use this year as the base for what we will ask for TOPS for next year. And our initial TOPS projection is due into the budget office early next month. So if there's a significant amount of invoices outstanding, it will affect our ability to project TOPS expenses accurately. They'll give us an opportunity to correct it if we see reason to. But if it seems like I'm waiting with bated breath for those fall invoices, I am. That's why. So hopefully next month I will have lots of TOPS data to share. But yeah, there's definitely a lack of TOPS billings out there to date.
Thank you. Any questions or comments for Brett? All right. Next, we have the executive director's update. Dr. Booty.
Good morning, everybody. Okay. I want to just take a brief minute to commend the entire LOSFA team, such that our existing board members and new board members know that if you thought about LOSFA, right, in the outreach that we do, we've always done a phenomenal job of running the programs that we've been assigned. But our outreach before was primarily contained with respect to K-12, letting students know what they had to do to be eligible for what TOPS, and as well as, some work with the schools on having students retain TOPS. But the Board of Regents and LOSFA have a goal, and the Board of Regents has set a goal to serve 3 audiences. The first would be access to success, which would primarily have been LOSFA's wheelhouse before with the K-12 space. The second one is a focus on adults with varying degrees of the adult population, including offenders, displaced homemakers, those people that are dislocated workers, as well as returning adults that have some college. And then the third aspect is to get into that post-secondary space and work on continuation strategies and completion strategies. So how do we bring that through our outreach directly to the audiences we are serving? And hopefully this is coming through to you all as you see these various presentations together are attempting to grow our outreach and development of programming in the other two areas that we have not been as strong in. So I definitely want to commend the team for continuing to grow and innovate and figure out ways to be able to get information directly to the students, as well as those team members that run programs who have continued to take on additional programs, mostly with the same level of staffing. We're able to get a few here and there, but that core team has remained pretty much the same. So a big shout out to everybody for the hard work that they are doing. What we want to primarily focus on in the executive director's update today is where we are with respect to Hurricane Ida and any impacted areas. Of course, with Tropical Storm Nicholas would be added if that disaster is approved and FEMA parishes recognized. The first thing that we're providing to you today, when you see natural disaster exceptions under LOSFA's current authority, what we're attempting to say here is, in the absence of an executive order or the absence of a proclamation, which, as many of you remembered, with last year's hurricane experience, we had that. That allowed LOSFA to be able to provide blanket exceptions, meaning students weren't having to go through and submit the exception form and go through the 4 to 6 week process, and we were able to code them under special circumstances. What this page is showing you is that what we can and cannot do without the proclamation. Without a proclamation or executive order, we cannot do blanket exceptions. At this current time, we are providing the fact that students can submit exceptions under natural disaster, but they go through the regular exceptions process. In the middle of this page, it says, in the absence of the executive order, we cannot provide any, even through an exceptions process, initial eligibility exception requirements. And that's that granting of that ACT deadline extension for students, granting of an exception for a higher ACT for a student that, let's say, evacuated and finished high school in another state other than Louisiana because of the storm. We cannot grant those exceptions, as well as that goes without saying that 2-year residency requirement, again, with evacuations. So we wanted you all to be aware of that. And then that being said, what can we do? We can grant the TOPS continuation requirements through our exceptions process. So next slide, Rhonda. On our website right now, what we've attempted to do is to have the questions and answers, which again, as we know more, we put more, that for students under the current natural disaster exception. There's also an exception since the entire Guard was mobilized for those students who were on active duty, that there is a regular exception for that. So this is just showing you a screenshot of what is posted on LOSFA's website now, and we will update that as we get more information or more is allowed. The third slide is showing that if there were to be an executive order or a proclamation, that this is the language that LOSFA submitted, and this really mirrors the language that we submitted for the hurricanes last year. So this is just showing you what we would be able to grant those blanket exceptions for, as well as the initial eligibility exceptions that we talked about on the prior slide. At the bottom of it, where it says continuing eligibility requirements, we did that asterisk because in the text, it basically says relative to continuing eligibility requirements for TOPS, and it references the statute. For those who are not as familiar with what exactly does that mean, we put that footnote at the bottom to say, this is what we're talking about, or these are the types of exceptions that you would be able to grant blanket if there were an executive order or proclamation. And this language has been submitted to the Board of Regents, but we wanted to give you all as advisory board members an update on what we can do now, what we have done, and what we've submitted. And that concludes it, unless there are questions.
Anybody else have questions? I have a couple of questions I don't understand, but I'll let other people that, anybody else have questions? What, am I correct in assuming that the Board of Regents or whatever will be requesting the executive order or governor's proclamation so that these other, the ones that you've shown there will kick in?
We've not received a final word on that, but we actually sent that language actually before the hurricane made landfall. So it is
Okay.
there should they choose to move forward with that.
Okay, so, but they have, someone has to move forward then and get.
To contact the governor's office, yes, ma'am, to
Contact
request
the
that.
governor's office to issue
Mhm.
this.
And often that's done in conjunction with other things, and that may be the process because we will submit what we would need for TOPS and what we would need for operations, because this doesn't just cover TOPS. When we give these exceptions, it also covers other programs that we have, and that's on our Q&A that shows that these other programs also require continuous full-time enrollment, and those exceptions would cover those programs as well. So yes, it's been submitted, but sometimes the delay is that we've got to see what other areas need language in the executive order. So we will keep you all posted on the status.
Thank you. And is there any I don't know, and maybe Amy, is there going to be any conflict or not, or doesn't it matter if a student who gets unenrolled by LSU for non-compliance with the three prongs of the COVID stuff, that student, if he or she lives in an area that has been affected by Ida, the unenrollment will not impinge upon his TOPS eligibility.
I think, okay, and correct me if I'm misunderstanding your question, because you would have two things right now. We're getting questions about Hurricane Ida and what do I do if I've been impacted, I couldn't enroll. That's a natural disaster exception. We have also gotten questions from students about vaccine requirements. And can they say, I'm not going to enroll because I don't want to comply with those vaccine requirements? That is not an exception for TOPS, and that is not an exceptional circumstance for TOPS, because under our current rules with respect to exceptional circumstances, a student's failure to enroll because they don't like a policy or they don't want to comply with the policy is not considered an exceptional circumstance. We do have a question and answer on our website that basically says to students that you are required to maintain continuous full-time enrollment. And this is when you're asking me if the reason you don't want to enroll is because of a vaccine requirement. And we've advised in that response that institutions may have a policy that says, we've seen with the UL, thank you, Dr. Henderson, for you all's publicizing that there's a waiver, there's also a dissent, but that is handled at the institution. So we're advising students to work with their institution on those things, but for the purposes of TOPS, for this reason, they are expected to remain enrolled. Does that separate it out?
I'm not sure. If I choose not to comply, if I'm a student and I choose not to comply with any of those things, however, I do live in a hurricane impacted area and the governor's proclamation comes out, then he or she gets a blanket exception?
For the hurricane impacted area.
Right, but the hurricane impacted says, no, you don't have to be continually enrolled. But that's not the real reason why he is no longer enrolled. I don't know.
Well, that's going to be transparent to LOSFA, but I will say that under the hurricanes, multiple hurricanes we had last year, when we had this blanket exception, it was students from our perspective and our numbers did not appear to have taken advantage of that, because if they would have, we would have seen everybody coming under the blanket exception of COVID or everybody under the blanket exception of the hurricane. We actually saw, okay, here's COVID exceptions, here's hurricane exceptions, and here's temporary disability, here's this reason. So students did use all of those categories, and we did not see a big drop off or decline in use of the regular categories in favor of the other. Robin, do you have anything you want to add to that or clarify?
Robin?
Yeah, I would like to add that if students had taken advantage of it, because you've got to remember, I don't remember off the top of my head how many parishes it was in the state that were affected by the hurricanes last year. But if all of the students for whom we added those blanket exceptions to their files had taken advantage, our TOPS billings for last year would not have been nearly what they were. There's no way, because if I'm recalling correctly, there were 38,000 something students who received that blanket exception. So the vast majority of those students did actually go to school, even though they had the option not to because of the hurricane.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Well, Marion, just
Dr. Henderson?
if I could, it's just related slightly. So the disenrollment of students is related to a specific LSU policy that they had about intake of students this spring. For UL system institutions, when FDA approved the Pfizer vaccine, that triggered a request that we had put in place to add COVID-19 to the schedule of required immunizations at our campuses. It is exactly the same as it is for MMR, as it is for polio, as it is for the other vaccines that are on the ACIP approved schedule. And so for our students, the implication is if you have not submitted, just like for every other immunization, an immunization record, a physician's note that the immunization is medically contraindicated, or a written dissent, which is typically just checking a box that says personal reason, a registration hold is put on your account. Again, just like we've done for decades under the immunization statute. You will not be able to register for future terms until you comply with that registration requirement. So it's a fairly innocuous, established process, and I would imagine that TOPS has had to respond to those things in the past, and that we have a pretty established process for that as well.
Yeah, and just to clarify from an LSU perspective, the same thing, we allowed students to either get the vaccine or to complete a waiver. Our process was just that was required immediately when the FDA approved the vaccine. So students had to self-report or provide that information. And if they did not, we gave them until yesterday to meet that requirement. We ended up only dropping 78 students. So the number was, so almost all of our students, our 34,000 students, were in compliance. It was only 78 students. I do not have a number this morning yet of how many of those were TOPS recipients, but it would be less than that number because we probably do have some non-resident students in that 78.
That's good. And so you're all, Jim and Amy, you're comfortable with this. That's what I'm hearing. There's not a.
Amy, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but are you saying that the top students are smarter? Don't answer it. I could take those risks. Just don't answer that.
All right, thank you. I appreciate your time and patience on that. Okay, next we move to the big item today, which is new businesses, which is the MJ Foster Program rulemaking. And I need to ask a question here, I guess, of Robin or the executive director. We have to approve these, the notice of intent, and stamped on the notice of intent is the big word draft. When we approve these as drafts, that does give you, I'm assuming, permission to change the draft without having to come back with us. Is that correct?
To a certain extent, we would not make any substantive changes, and if it was the intent to do so, it would be mentioned during this item.
Okay.
After you approve it, it will be sent to the Board of Regents without that watermark for their approval. But I left that watermark on it for this meeting just in case there were any additional comments that were received, or any additional questions that board members might have, so that those changes could be made. And since you brought it up, there is one issue that arose a couple of days ago. Throughout the rules, we refer to steady academic progress, and these rules state satisfactory academic progress. As a result of that, I have been asked to change that to steady academic progress so that the entire body of the scholarship and grant rules are all consistent. And with your permission, I would like to make that one minor change before sending it to the Board of Regents for their approval. But other than that, I am not aware of any other changes that need to be made to these rules.
I don't know whether it was just the reason I asked that, or one of the reasons, whether it was a formatting thing, but in one section, three of the things are actually duplicated in the second column. And so I forget where it was. And it's those kinds of cleanup things, and that's adopting these does not prevent you from doing that or making the minor. I would call the example that you just gave us a kind of an editorial change that we don't need to, or maybe we do. When we approve the motion, make sure that we give you the opportunity to make any editorial changes. I don't know, just so we do it correctly.
I would think when you do the motion, you can specify with the following changes. To the effect that, change satisfactory academic progress to steady academic progress, and any typographical errors. That's what I would consider that information being in those two columns repeated. That's mostly a typographical error.
Okay. Robin, are there things particularly that you want to present to the board about these rules, or
I would like to just say that we have worked extensively with members of the LCTCS team, with LSUE, with LSUS, all of those participants, in order to get these rules in a place that everybody is comfortable with, and that complies with Act 457. I will be happy to take any questions, but as you know, this act is fairly extensive, and I do not intend to go through the entire body of this rulemaking unless y'all would like me to do so.
Okay, thank you. Questions, comments from board members?
Robin, you said LSUS. Was that supposed to be Southern Shreveport, SUSLA?
Yes, it was. I apologize for that. I wrote it down wrong.
I did go back, so I didn't keep up with this. I did go back and read Act 457, and I was surprised at how detailed it was. That it really outlined exactly what they wanted to accomplish in this legislation, and I don't know whether that made the drafting of these rules more difficult or easier. I have no idea, but I thought it was a job well done. They're certainly clear. Questions, comments? This is your last opportunity. Okay, if there are no questions or comments, then I need a motion to approve these as presented, with the caveat that the staff can certainly make it minor editorial revisions as needed. So may I have a motion to approve, please?
This is Amy. I motion to approve.
Thank you, Amy. I need a second, please.
Second from Jim.
All right, thank you, Dr. Henderson. It's been moved and seconded that we approve these rules as presented, so they can be then go to the Board of Regents. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Opposed, the same? No one's opposing. So these are approved. I know that it took you a lot of work. You can tell that in the rules. Is there anything else? I think we have no exceptions, no other. This was the only, we have the public comment.
We don't have anything.
We don't have anything. Thank you. And now we need a motion then, if that's the case, to adjourn. Someone?
It's Christy, I'll make the motion.
I motion to adjourn.
All
I'll
right.
second.
And a second. All right. So we then are adjourned.